the beam, because it's time for Nerdy for 30, the podcast where we talk about nerdy-ish movies for 30-ish minutes. My name, I'm so glad you asked, is Kevin Bauer, a.k.a. the Critic's Choice. Mm-hmm. With me, as always, is the People's Champ, Tim Keck. And today, we are talking about the newest MCU movie, The Marvels.
The Marvels. Turns out there are 3 characters in the MCU that share similar light-based powers, and after a weird accident, they all become intertwined with each other, switching places, so they team up and go to figure out what's wrong. It revolves around the bangle that Miss Marvel found in her TV show on the Disney Plus. So if you didn't know what that was about, probably should have watched every single thing that the MCU's put out. And then they come together and use some teamwork and ultimately end up saving the day. I don't know. Am I missing anything, Kev?
I think you're just missing one big thing, Tim, which is that this is a good movie and nobody's talking about it.
It is a good movie. I like it. I like this movie a lot. Thinking about it, I thought of a comparison, which I'm sure will lose you on this, is Thor: Love and Thunder, where watching it the first time, I was like, okay, there's some things I don't like about this. But Thor: Love and Thunder, to me, each individual scene I like a lot. I don't know if I like the way that they're arranged, or maybe I think some other scenes could have been added in between. But as far as rewatching it, it's a great rewatch because, like, you know what's going to happen and you're just hanging out with these cool characters and having a good time. At best, I don't think this is necessarily the best story, but there are great moments in this that are going to be fun to rewatch that I have been thinking about. And you can't say that about every MCU movie. And so I think this puts it, I think it's above the Air Meridian for sure. I think it's probably top half of Marvel. But we don't, maybe at some point we should do a full rankings and list and just really, really hash this out because I feel good about this. I'm wondering where it would rank, but what about you, Kevin? What did you think about this?
We should do a full Marvel rank down. Yeah, I definitely think this is an upper half Marvel movie. I really enjoyed this. There was a lot of discussion prior to this movie's release about how the director was gone for like the last 4 months of reshoots.
Yeah.
And just how unprecedented that is. And I feel like you could tell when she was on set and when she wasn't, because this movie,
she had contractual obligations. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Marvel knew about this. She had another movie that she was required to start working on. It seems like people were giving her shit for this,
for sure. I want to make it clear that I'm not.
Sounds like a girl director just bailing halfway through. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? She's doing such a good job that she's got multiple projects lined up and you can't spend every waking moment working on this movie. I mean, you're right. Plagued by reshoots and things like that. But, there's just so many bad vibes out about her that I don't know.
Yeah.
But you said you could tell the difference. Man. So what is it to you?
I think so, because this movie is a mix of things that are generic pieces of the MCU and things that can only have been foundational parts of the script. There is so much heart in this movie. There are so many very genuine, very fun moments of these characters interacting. And I don't think any of those could possibly have been reshoots. I think all the reshoots were the diciest, weakest parts of this movie. I see where you're coming from with Love and Thunder, because Love and Thunder has some scenes that I really like and some scenes that are just painful to watch. This felt very similar to me.
I feel differently. I'm just so bought in to those characters that I'm down to just, I love Thor. I would just hang out with Thor, the whole time. I love it. I mean, he's my favorite guy. As a kid growing up, he was one of my favorite superheroes. I think he was my dad's favorite hero when he was a kid. And I just feel so nostalgic and attached to this guy. And I like Taika Waititi. I get that, maybe he's not the right choice for this, but in a vacuum, yeah, I really like his stuff. And so rewatchability, I think Love and Thunder gets too much hate, but it's up there. But you're right. There are weak parts in this. I think there are some, I'm going to say this and then forget some of them while I was watching it, but I think there are some pretty obvious and relatively simple ways to make this a better movie.
Interesting.
And so I think I kind of left thinking like it's good. There's enough there that this movie could have just been better. And it could have been, I think it could have been a great movie. And it doesn't get there, but there's moments that are, I mean, gosh, my thief is probably that scene with the cats eating people.
Oh, so funny.
Incredible.
Jesus, so funny.
Incredible to turn a character that I personally hate because of the Nick Fury of it all and making them such an integral part of the movie. And also one of the funniest scenes in Marvel, just as like, it's not even a character bit, like as a concept and like a CGI execute, like none of the characters are even in it. It's just like such an absurd situation that it's brilliant. It's like an incredible joke. It's an incredible bit. And I was all about it. I was jealous of that. I don't know.
Dude, it's a joke that overcomes the weakness and abruptness of how it was set up. Really strange, where suddenly there's just these weird little like lumps around the spaceship. And the second time we saw the lumps, it's like, oh, okay, it's going to be kittens. I had no idea. Obviously, this is where the kittens were going to go. And I'm with you. I resent Goose. I think that the joke of cute, cuddly thing is actually a horrifying creature is so played out. I think it's so cliche at this point. The fact that most of the time when it happens in a Disney movie now, the sense of humor that goes along with it is like, thing that looks like a normal cat eats someone with giant tentacles. And then the sarcastic, quippy character in the room goes, well, that happened. I just absolutely hate it. But I think the entire reason that these things worked for me in this movie is Kamala. It's the fact that the first time we see Goose eat somebody, she screams her fucking head off. And she is such a good actor that she really sells the terror in that moment. And I mean, her charm in general, I'm curious if one of your notes that you would have given this movie is the same that mine is, which is just it should have been entirely from Kamala's perspective.
I didn't think of perspective. At the beginning of the movie, Miss Marvel is one of the weaker characters in the MCU, not physically, but the movie is okay. And then she just
Captain
shows
Marvel,
up and the first Marvel or Captain Marvel. Yeah. I feel like Captain Marvel's okay. I feel like, Brie Larson's kind of gotten a bad shake of it just because her character, doesn't have the arc of overcoming, the way that all these other characters did. It just seems like she just kind of shows up and is invincible. And then I don't know. I get it. I loved the way they set up her in the spaceship by herself with just the cat, and she's got her suit on, but she pulls it off like a wetsuit or something. So sick. Like a jumpsuit, and she's walking around in, the wife beater. That can't be the right thing to say anymore.
Yeah, there's got to be
another term for it. I tried
to Google this the other day. There's got to be a better term for it, man. It's 2023.
Yeah, there's got to be something better to say, but that's what she's wearing. She's wearing a wife beater. She's got it down. I don't know what else you call it.
When I think of Captain Marvel, I think wife beater.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just sounds terrible.
Wife beater. It's like, when did Jonathan Majors show up? No,
the gang gets sued for slander.
We're talking about the tank top that Brie Larson is wearing. She looks great, but that is like the vibe of she's living in her uniform and she's alone. And the scene where she floats down with the planet and the cat just jumps on her shoulder and she's flying through space with the cat. I was like, this is a movie. This is incredible. I would love to have this. And Marvel does this thing that maybe they do really well where, between movies, they give you just a glimpse of something that happened off screen that would have been a really cool movie. Like, oh, look, Captain America's Steve Rogers now, and he had all these adventures and we're not seeing them, but that would have been a pretty cool Disney Plus show, or that would have been a pretty sweet movie we all would have enjoyed. I feel like missing out on Brie Larson just exploring space with the cat, I feel like could have been a whole vibe and awesome. And my biggest beef or thief is that I think Miss Marvel is a wonderful addition to that. I don't think we need Monica Rambeau. I don't think she adds anything to the movie. I think she feels forced. That character was very underdeveloped. She was a minor character in WandaVision. We haven't gotten any real impact with her as a superhero. I mean, maybe it's been so long. I just feel no attachment to that character. And I don't know if she doesn't really bring anything out. She's like in between Brie and Iman. Is that how you say her name?
Yeah.
She's tonally, I think you could straight up take her out and it's a better movie, because then it's just Brie Larson with this cat set in her ways, trying to open up. And this girl who shows up who has a family, loves her family, is a part of like a bigger community than herself, and is also positive about things. She's outgoing. She hasn't done all these horrible things that Captain Marvel's done. I think the contrast between them is so good that the Rambo thing just gets in the way for me. It really does. And I think if she's not in it and they follow that first thread, it's a great movie potentially.
Damn. Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. I think structurally you could take her out. It would probably require bringing Nick Fury into the fold a little closer so that there is somebody else that can kind of be this intermediary between Kamala and Carol. But that's a really risky thing to do because of how badly they fucked up the character of Nick Fury. Yeah. Nick Fury is dead to me in these movies. He is a complete non-factor at this point. It is heartbreaking how bad Secret Invasion was and how lame some of the stuff he's doing in this movie is. I mean, I have a hard preference for like cold spy master Nick Fury pulling the strings behind everything. And it just really takes a lot out of it when Nick Fury is like, you know, being encouraging with people and meeting their parents. I like the version of Nick Fury that's like mean to Peter Parker. Like,
yeah, that's the cool one where he shows up and is a dick to Iron Man. Like that's cool.
Yeah, it's what I want. Maybe that's just not. Yeah. He's softened up so much that it's a different guy at this point.
It's a different character completely.
I like Monica a lot. I've liked Monica in the comics too. Was a huge fan of Next Wave. I think that there are a lot of scenes with her. I just like Tanoia Paris too. There's like a scene where like Kamala's doing something, she's super excited, and Monica's just like, all right, calm down, baby. And it's like, so wonderful. Like she phrases it perfectly. Delivery is incredible.
She's good. I mean, she's a good
actor. I like it from that perspective. Yeah. I do think you're right. There does need to be some kind of an intermediary. I think really what I'm wishing is I think so. Yeah. Because there's got to be like Carol is like not in a state in the beginning of this movie to talk to people at all, let alone like mentor a kid.
But isn't that don't we have a million movies that are like, you know, like the older, gruffer guy, and then they pick up a companion and slowly warm up? I mean, that's every rom-com. Like, I don't understand why we need an intermediary necessarily. The mission is the intermediary, right? Where they have to work together. They're attached because of this Flippy thing. And so then she has to be with her. She's got the band. Like, they are tied together by fate in this. And I feel like that's enough to just explore and flesh out the character for it. I mean, another thing Nick Fury messed up in this whole movie was the power scaling in this, which Marvel is, I think, honestly, normally great at, I think, is the power scaling in this, or at least, I don't know, does it in a convincing enough way? I don't know. I mean, there are things like Thanos punches, you know, Captain America in the face and he gets up. But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't feel as terrible in the moment. But they're doing this thing where they're switching back and forth to fight two generic goons. And they're each in a location with two generic goons. And then Captain Marvel switches in, and all of a sudden she's having trouble with these two goons. And then they switch out, and now it's Monica Rambeau, and she's having trouble with these two goons. And then they switch to Miss Marvel, and she's having trouble with these two goons. Rambeau exists in this in-between space where she's not as strong as Captain Marvel, stronger than Miss Marvel, and I'm just not sure how strong she is. It doesn't, it doesn't make sense. Like, why can't she fight these people? She can't fly. And then Nick Fury's just like, well, it's time to learn to fly. Like, how do you even know she's capable of flying?
So weird.
It's what? And so
reshoot. I'm telling you, that had to be a reshoot. I think that was one of the reshot scenes. It was so awkward.
The fact that Samuel L. Jackson fought hand to hand with one of these monsters that was giving Brie Larson trouble or Carol Danvers trouble doesn't make any sense. I mean, this guy is just like trying to stab him and just with his pure strength, Nick Fury is able to hold them off and then do a cool gun thing. And I don't buy it. I don't believe it. That's also not usually his game. So, it's sloppy in that regard. It's definitely sloppy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Carol took a headbutt from Thanos and then was having trouble with these guys. It's tough. Yeah. I think they probably did it for the sake of being able to do the switch fighting. And you could argue that maybe it's just how disorienting switching physical locations would be. It is a little bit of a bummer, especially because of how cool the location switching was. I thought going into this movie, it was going to be a total mess. Seeing that in the first trailer, that they were going to not only be juggling 3 characters, 2 of which audiences have only seen on Disney Plus before, and one of which people have very bad feelings about and was underexposed coming into Endgame. I'm like, we're going to have these people be on screen, have extremely similar names, and have them physically switching locations and expect the audience to follow that. And they did so well with it. It was super fucking cool. I loved it every single time they did it. I think a lot of it benefited from the fact that they took the time to do a training montage / sleepover, which was so much fun.
Yes.
And it was really so cool to see that pay off in the end where Kamala's doing the Doctor Strange thing and throwing out steps that Carol's jumping onto and making a slide. And it seemed like they each kind of had a dedicated thing. I noticed Kamala was always just going for the legs, trying to get the villain off or balance. It was really cool. I really bought them as a team.
I did too, which is I'm still team Monica Rambeau could have been edited out of this movie, but I think they have great chemistry together. When it's the 3 of them just hanging out on the spaceship, it's great. They're good. I mean, they're great actors. They're just kind of vibing and figuring stuff out. I mean, those are the best scenes in the movie are the 3 of them on the spaceship together interacting. And from there, they keep leaving. They also just appear places. Was I crazy with that? Because they've got the sword facility that Nick Fury's on. And it felt like Kamala, had a warm reunion with her family 5 times in this movie. And
that is a very good point.
And they'd leave and then they'd show up on the sword thing. And then they would just be there. It felt like they would just be there. They were off doing something else. And then they're like, well, we need the Marvels. And then the Marvels walk in. They walk into the screen. It's not even they fly in or they appear in. They just walk into the room. There were moments where I just thought it was too great. And then we have to have a reunion with her family and everyone's crying. And it's kind of sweet. But I don't know. It felt a little abrupt to me. I don't know.
Tim, I got a question for you. When did you know that Nick Fury brought Kamala's family to space as an apology for fucking up their house?
Is that what it was? Because I don't know.
There's no other reason they would have gone to space. Why were they in space?
I guess because their daughter is there and they want to be able to track her. Or I didn't think it was absolutely insane, but it is weird that. And they're not. Why don't they get eaten by the cat? Why isn't Nick Fury having a cat eat them? They're just a part of the thing. And Nick Fury's just a goofball and trying to figure stuff, but they are citizens. So why are just normal Joe Schmoes in charge of herding up, pun intended, I guess, with the crew, the trained crew, guys who are 200 plus years old are being swallowed in favor of Miss Marvel's mom. That's who we need on the crack squad. I get it. As a movie, you have to have her there, but it's weird. What'd you think?
I mean, I don't think there's any movie logic that checks out for why they had to be up there, but I'm glad they were, because they are my secret thief for this movie. They're so good. Her infrastructure. I'm so glad they didn't have her weird, clingy, like men's rights activist friend from the show.
Yeah.
I'm so glad he wasn't in this movie. But
Just
wow, am I glad that her family was there, because they are so fun to watch and they've got incredible chemistry. The same age joke, incredible. God is so good.
The brother's comedic timing is vicious. It's so good. The remote bit at the end, every joke he had crushed. It was incredible.
Oh shit.
It was incredible.
So fun.
I feel like the mom didn't get enough. I feel like the dad was just kind of there. And then the mom, it's also the problem with all these reunions is all of her dialogue was, "Oh my God, it's so great to see you." And it happened like 5 times or whatever, where she was like, "Oh my God, Kamala," and like hugs her. And it's like, cool. If that's all she's saying, then she doesn't get a chance to do other fun stuff or get other bits. It just felt like she was kind of underutilized. And I'm not excited about this reunion because I've seen it 4 times already. It was weird, but I agree. I agree they're great. And I would love to watch another Disney Plus Miss Marvel show. I like that they did the animation up top. I wish they could have stuck with that in some way. Or just maybe, save up the budget and do it for the entire series of a Disney Plus show. How about that? How about not bail on your gimmick instantly because of whatever reasons? Like, keep the character's perspective throughout. Speaking of character perspective, Kevin, this is a beef of mine. And this seems dumb. But the opening Marvel credits to these movies are pretty iconic. They scroll through all these characters and then you end up on the Marvel logo. And sometimes these change, right? Sometimes I think for, Moon Knight, it went to like black and silver. And then for other movies, it's kind of moved around a little bit and different songs play. This one had images of the Marvels in it, right? Mm-hmm. It had Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, Miss Marvel in it. You know who else? The only other people, I tried to watch this YouTube show of like all the intros. You know who else has gotten an intro like that where their images are in the Marvel poster? Stan Lee, Chadwick Boseman. That's it. They got a treatment in the intro that is reserved for deceased major contributors to the Marvel world. And for some reason, they decided to show those characters there instead of the usual flip through. It should have been they should have gotten the regular intro.
Nobody else has gotten that? Like, they've never done that with like Captain America or something?
No, they don't.
Really?
They don't. It's an in memoriam. They've done the same one really that ends with Black Panther doing the punch, every single time. And this one they gave him this treatment that I thought was reserved for in memoriams. And for some reason, they're doing it with the Marvels, which I feel like I don't think
we're getting any more Marvels movies. So that may have been a little spoiler.
That's what it is. This franchise is already dead. I don't know. I was pissed off immediately when I saw it. Is that crazy? Is that an overreaction to that?
I mean, yeah,
of course it is.
Also, like, I see what you're saying. Like, it breaks. It's honestly kind of like a branding frustration. Like, it's the kind of thing you normally hear from like a company's creative services team, is that this was like out of alignment with the rest of the company's branding. And it is cool. I can see the argument for it, where like seeing all these other characters in the intro really makes you feel like this is part of that bigger connected universe. So I wonder if we'll see that more now going forward.
I don't know. But I mean, I remember like Wakanda Forever, and now it seems like on Disney Plus, they've replaced the regular Marvel intro for that with the one they did before Wakanda Forever. So if you watch that one, it's the in memoriam for Chadwick Boseman.
Wow.
Which, I mean, he died and there were just a lot of movies in between. And then they switched to having the Black Panther punch be like the final move in all the Marvel movies. So it's like, this great guy dies. Seems like he was a really good dude. He was a big part of the MCU. It was a very important character. And so then like every movie and thing after that, you get just that little reminder at the end, like, hey, we lost this great guy. He was a legend. Yeah. And I teared up at the beginning of Wakanda Forever once the intro came in and it was just Chadwick Boseman. That got me more than anything else in Wakanda. Honestly, that hit me good. And so to just to see them do that for Captain Marvel, it's like, I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way. It makes me feel insincere. It makes me feel like a punk, like, why was I getting emotional about this thing that they just give to everybody? Like, I don't know. I feel like I got punked for that a little bit, but you know what? Fuck me for caring,
Nah, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh man. Do you have the WandaVision one went black and white at the end. This is just, my God. What else? Do you have any other thieves? Have we done thieves?
We've done. I mean, I think I've said most of my thieves so far. The chemistry, the family, all the parts that seem like the director actually did it. And again, I want to clarify that I'm not like attacking her. I'm attacking the Marvel machine for like not working better so that she couldn't finish the movie in a reasonable amount of time. Beef that I really want to cover is I think that this villain is one of the worst Marvel villains. The thing that I like about her is that she seems like she had a direct connection to Carol and Carol's actions. I love the entire plot of the Annihilator thing. I think it's really cool to take this character and they're not afraid to make her like morally ambiguous. She probably killed a lot of people. Like Carol's probably responsible for more deaths than COVID. And
I think those COVID numbers are inflated.
Wow, great. Now we're going to get the Spotify flag on this episode. Wow.
Just don't
we'll
take
probably
it.
just pick up a lot of JRE listeners.
My advice, never go to the doctor.
You're following that advice right now.
I know. I hurt my foot. I couldn't walk. And you know what? I didn't go to the doctor. You know why? Because I'd have to walk to the fucking doctor. That's why.
Oh my God.
They don't do house calls for, or maybe they do. I don't know. I would love it if some guy just showed up with like a little bag and popped it open and, took my temperature or felt my heart. I don't know. Do they do traveling doctors like that anymore?
They did it during COVID for testing. It was fucking weird. Now we're definitely going to get the flag on there. Yeah, we did a COVID test one time in like 2020 and somebody showed up to our door and we like stood in the front door and they just stuck a Q-tip up our nose.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And that was just a neighbor.
It was just a neighbor and it wasn't even a COVID test. He just stuck a Q-tip up our nose.
Gosh.
Didn't even take it out. So for Carol, I like that they made her a little bit more morally ambiguous. I don't like that. I could not tell you this villain's name. I absolutely could not. I think she played it the way people play Power Rangers villains. I think the performance was on par with Ant-Man's daughter, which is like one of the worst MCU performances.
I don't think it's as bad as that. I thought that was so corny and over the top. And this one's more forgettable than I thought embarrassing. The Ant-Man's daughter was like giving embarrassing monologues in it. Like it was Spy Kids 2.
Happened.
And she was not a Spy Kids villain. She was a Power Rangers villain, which, Power Rangers of higher quality than people remember, I think.
Bryan Cranston was a Power Rangers villain. Don't forget that.
He was Zordon, dude.
He was not Zordon. Well, he was Zordon in the movie, but he was a villain in the TV series.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Wow. And he was on Seinfeld. That guy's had a career. We should have him on.
We should.
Let's get Cranston on the pod. Hashtag Cranston on the pod.
He's been begging for forever.
Tag him in it on Threads. Let's get a Threads going and see if we can get him on the pod. With that Annihilator thing you were talking about, there's that scene where Brie Larson is confessing that she's the Annihilator, and that I hated that scene. I don't know. I thought it was so bad. I thought the acting was just so off in it. It was weird because these three have great chemistry on the ship. And then Brie Larson's like trying to cry, but like it doesn't work. And I don't know. It felt so fake to me in a way that I think
that seems off.
Yeah. It feels like that's kind of the beef with Captain Marvel and whatever Brie Larson a little bit is that she comes across like kind of stiff and wooden in some of these, but I think it's a tough situation. I think she's put in a tougher situation there than Captain America is and Iron Man is. And, you know, we're not expecting those guys to cry.
No,
they just get tough and yell at people, you know?
Yeah.
But it makes sense that she would feel that way. And it makes sense that she would be emotional. And unfortunately, that doesn't jive with everything else they've got going on tonally in the movie, I feel like. Or something. Yeah. I feel like it's directing. It's something is getting fucked up in those scenes, which.
Yeah, because there's parts like the "Hey, Peter Parker got something for me" in Endgame. Great Captain Marvel moment. And there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I thought she was really good in this. I definitely thought like she was a lot more fun to watch in this than the first movie. But that's mostly just because the first movie is like a bad setup for us to be introduced to this person. Like she wasn't Carol really in the first movie. She couldn't remember who Carol was. And in this one, I loved kind of how they played with like her being in isolation for so long. She had kind of like a bug-eyed Doc Brown thing going on where people would be talking to her and she'd just kind of be looking at them like she hasn't talked to a human in a couple months.
I love the isolation story. I think the isolation story, the Annihilator thing, like is the story. And I think if that had been the driving focus of this, it kind of like the bad guy's trying to steal resources, right? I kind of like that. They're stealing resources from places that have significance to Captain Marvel. Yeah, it's weird that didn't work, but I don't think the Annihilator thing felt sincere enough to pull it off. Or am I wrong? Like, why didn't that work? Why didn't that type of, because that's super villain level revenge, right? That's top tier villain revenge. Why didn't it work?
It was super cool. Like the visuals for it were super cool too. I think for the most part, it's just because everything else around it was so convoluted. And they showed us like a shot of the Kree planet. They had the title card down there, but it kind of presupposes that all of us are like really up on the lore for this specific storyline. We really have not seen very much of this part of the cosmic universe, like the Captain Marvel specific part of the universe. We haven't. And most of the Skrull stuff that we've seen has been very bad. So we probably could have used a refresher there and a little bit more clarity. And I think it's pretty tough too, because the Kree have been depicted as kind of like high elves insofar as they are very stiff with the way that they talk. And that presents a barrier. I think a lot of the reason that Guardians of the Galaxy works is because most of the aliens talk pretty casually. You know, it's pretty informal for most of them. So it makes it a lot easier to get a lore dump when someone's just telling it to you plain.
Yeah. I feel like maybe a Captain Marvel 2 ahead of this could have worked. You know, all the stuff they gloss out with her returning to the planet and being the Annihilator. Yeah, man, I wish I'd like seen that and like really felt that some more.
But that's nuts because I thought the first Captain Marvel should have been 2 movies, because I think we should have basically gotten Top Gun with Carol Danvers for a movie. And then, you know, that ends with a thing where it's revealed that she's like in space. And then the second movie opens up and we get a lot of cool shit where she's on this like SEAL Team 6 with aliens. And then we find out that they basically brainwashed her and she has to kind of reclaim who she is using things that we know about her that we saw in the first movie. I would be interested in a movie where Maverick remembers that he's Maverick. But if the movie started with Maverick not knowing who he is, and we've never seen Maverick before either, that's a tough sell for anybody.
That is tough. It's tough. I don't know. It's weird. You want to see time change in between movies, and it's kind of cool to see where the characters are now. But what do you think about them just setting out to make a specific type of movie and then throwing in a superhero in it? You know, like, isn't that a better formula of like Winter Soldier seems like it could work without Captain America, right? That could just be a movie and we would watch it. And then Captain America happens to be in it and it's even better. I feel like that wouldn't be a bad idea if they made this movie in a way that like it could have been done without any of these characters and then add them in. Maybe. I don't know. Is that a good philosophy?
That formula? That's exactly how every Die Hard movie has been made. Is that they make these movies? They adapt books. It's usually scripts that were adaptations of popular books, and then at some point, whoever it is that makes those, I forget the company, gets the rights to it, and they're like, "Yeah, we're going to throw John McClane in this one, and he's going to have a line where he's like, 'How many times is this going to happen to the same guy?'"
That's what I want. That's really what I want from Marvel, though, is just the superheroes should be like a filter that they put on at the end. Just drop a bunch of MCU stuff. I don't know, Kevin. I feel like this was a pretty good movie, though. I enjoyed it. I encourage people to watch it. Yeah.
100%. I think this movie's not getting enough love. I think this is probably going to be a situation where we get some looky-loos who wanted to listen to the pod because they were like, I'm not going to watch this one. And I would encourage you to give it a shot. It's not perfect. Like I said, there's a lot of shit in this that does not work, but it is so much fun, man.
There's fun bits in it for sure. There's a lot of things to like about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey, what did you think? Did you see it? Let us know. nerdy430.com. Send us an email and come back here next week where we will be talking about, I believe, the Scott Pilgrim TV show. Is that right? Is it time? Incredible. It's finally here. Brie Larson Double Dose. We will see you then. Until then, stay nerdy, everybody.
She's in Scott Pilgrim? Bye.
Yeah, she's in the Addams.
What?
Yeah, man.
Well, this will be great.